Michael Hofer, welcome to the show. It's nice to meet you.
Thank you. Great to be on the show. Thanks for the invitation.
So, you're currently the Chief Financial Officer of the Navajo Transitional Energy Company, but you also have had a number of very interesting sounding positions over your career. Maybe you can start by giving me some of the highlights.
Yeah, sure. I've been a CFO for over 20 years, originally from Austria, moved around with mergers and acquisitions, worked in different countries, and moved to North America more than 10 years ago. And by the way, when I moved to North America, initially I thought it's going to be for 1 year and then maybe add another year, and now it's 10 plus years. And I joined NTEC, the company NTEC, Navajo Transitional Energy Company, about 3 years ago. But I worked before also with private equity, lived during that time in Miami as the CFO of Grass Valley, and worked for Capsch Trafficom and lived during that time in Washington, D.C. So I've seen a bit of the United States during that time.
What was it that initially brought you to the U.S.?
It was actually a merger and acquisition project from a global Austrian company called Capsch Trafficom. And they have invested in North America and bought the EasyPass group on the East Coast, the transponder that you have in the car when you pay on the street. And they were looking ideally somebody from Europe coming to North America first to integrate it into the group, but then also to grow the business. So North America was really and still is a big growth market for Capsch Trafficom. And we expanded it then also my responsibility to South America. So I was at that time the CFO Americas, and it was an exciting time, a lot of change. As you know, with mergers and acquisitions, bringing in a company into a bigger group. But it was also exciting. We started with the transponder business alone, no project business, which was the focus of Capsch Trafficom actually on global level. And then we won our very first project, and when I left the company 8 years later, we had 350 projects in parallel. So a lot of growth.
That's interesting. I want to be sure I understand the story because EasyPass is something most of us know, right? We've used it. So is it the story that EasyPass started in Europe and then came over here, or you acquired it here?
We acquired it. We acquired it from a U.S. company, and manufacturing, by the way, is in Canada. So I moved the first few months to outside of Toronto to Mississauga. Was close to the manufacturing there. So it was an Austrian global company acquiring a U.S. Canadian entity.
What was the business model for EasyPass? Is it just like collecting fees off all the tolls?
Exactly. The big question is always how can you finance all of the investments into the streets? And one of the things that the different governments do is to require people to pay something when they use the road. And they need a technology for that. And EasyPass is one of those technologies. And the Capsch Trafficom Group offers a broader portfolio of solutions that goes beyond just a transponder, including software solution, including operations. And by offering that broader portfolio, it's not only a product business, it's really a project business. And the expansion of the project business was the business case, basically.
And does that company still exist, essentially the same form as when you were there?
Yeah, exactly. It still exists, still growing globally, still a hot topic. How do you finance as a government? How do you finance the investments in the streets?
And then tell me about this Grass Valley. That sounds like it was in the private equity
Private
space.
equity, exactly. I was contacted by a private equity firm because they were interested in buying a global media company. Very interesting, Grass Valley, focusing on switcher boards, on cameras, and starting to invest and to market a software as a service solution so that you don't have it only on premise, the software, but you can access it in the cloud. So that was an exciting opportunity for the private equity firm where they said, we can buy the company, we can grow the software as a service business, and we can also clean up some of the stuff that was the result of multiple mergers and acquisitions before by Grass Valley, So we centralized, for example, manufacturing. It was before in the UK and Canada. Then we only had it in Canada. We closed some of the offices, put people more together in bigger offices, created shared service centers in Poland and Malaysia. Global business, 1/3 of the revenue, Americas, 1/3 EMEA, Europe, and another third of the revenue in the APEC region. And they were looking for a CFO to start on day number one. And since I have a lot of experience with mergers and acquisitions, including the integration and restructuring, I started there on really day number one when they acquired the company. And as you can imagine, as a CFO, especially the first 3 months after the closing is a very exciting but also difficult time. This is where you have to change a lot, have to align a lot, have to set up reporting to the banks, to the private equity firm, work closely with the private equity firm and the management of the company on the growth ideas and value creation ideas. And I was there for 2 years, and we could really achieve a lot. We could expand the software as a service business. We could achieve cost savings, significant cost savings by creating those shared service centers in Poland and in Malaysia, and by centralizing manufacturing. So a lot of things that we could achieve in the 2 years.
Was that your first private equity-backed company position? Yeah.
That's correct.
So how did you, I'm curious how you thought about being the CFO of a PE-backed company, because I think those positions, the CFO position is usually not a a long tenure position in the private equity world.
Yeah. So personally, I like continuously improving a status, whether it's a status with the business, continuous performance improvements in manufacturing, or in personal life, by the way, too, right? I'm a strong believer in continuous learning and continuous improvement. I have multiple degrees. I have a PhD, an MBA, a Master of Science in Accounting. I was one of the world best in the CPA. I received the Elijah Ward-Sells Award, went to Wharton Business School for my executive education. I keep continuing learning, and now also with artificial intelligence, where I went to MIT with a certificate for that. So I'm a strong believer in continuous improvement and change, continuous change. And private equity is about change, right? Usually within a few years, you want to achieve a lot of value creation and a lot of change. And that's an environment that I really enjoy.
I have some exposure to private equity, the private equity playbook, and being in private equity companies. You know, we know what the game is, right? You talk about value creation. That's a big part of it, growing top and bottom line, and there's intense pressure to deliver those results. I'm always curious, how did you communicate, you know, at the C level, that's what you're thinking about. You're thinking about those financial results. But at the employee level, you can't just pound people and say, we have to grow, you know, for the sake of our PE overlords. How did you communicate those two things, the need to grow and achieve financials, but keeping people productive and not just making it all about money?
Yeah. I always focus on the big picture, and when I talk with employees, I repeat the big picture. What is the big idea of the company that we have there? What do we want to achieve? And if we achieve this in the future, or when we achieve this in the future, that's the positive effect for you also as an employee. And it's always better as an employee to work in a company that is successful, a growing company with a solid operating margin, a strong balance sheet. If you can improve this continuously, you have a better life as an employee too. And it depending on the people of the meeting, right? You adjust a little bit the message too. And you, as you mentioned, you cannot just talk about KPIs with all of the employees. You need to give the big picture and how to get to the big picture, and that it will have a positive effect also for the employees.
What was your experience working with the PE firm? I'm sure, you know, of course you were in the board meetings and monthly reporting and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, it was definitely a very close relationship that I had with the PE firm. So it was not only the board meetings on a quarterly basis, it was more on a weekly basis. And initially, even on a daily basis, when we made sure that we are all aligned about the value creation ideas and how we want to implement them. So it was a very close cooperation. And that's always what I've tried doing is working very closely with the executives of the firm, but also with the board of directors. You have to get all of them aligned, because if they don't align about the big picture, it's a problem.
And you mentioned being there for about 2 years. Were you there when they perhaps changed hands again or not?
They actually, the private equity firm still owns Grass Valley. So their initial idea changed a little bit. And I got the opportunity to grow in my personal career as the CFO at the Navajo Transitional energy company. It's a big energy company, third biggest coal producer in the US. So for me, it was a natural or logic step in my career.
Yeah. So tell me about this Navajo Transitional Energy Company. It sounds fascinating.
Yeah, it's an exciting company. It's the third biggest coal producer in the US. However, having said that, we have a very strong balance sheet. Over the last couple of years, we could improve the income statement and balance sheet significantly. And we do have business development plans in solar energy, in natural gas, in carbon capture, in lithium, and in other energy areas. So the big plan and the value creation idea for this company is really to continue being strong in coal, because we still need coal in the energy portfolio. We just need so much energy production, especially now with AI, more and more energy production, that coal still plays a significant role. But at the same time, we believe in those business development opportunities in other energy areas, and that's also the long-term strategy for the company. And it's great, to be honest, to be owned by the Navajo Nation, because you not only think about quarterly results, you really think about creating value creation in a generational perspective and long term. And that combination is still looking obviously at the results and how it is going in this year, but also at the same time having the Navajo Nation as the 100% owner of the company, and thinking in generations and how you can create as an executive team value for the Navajo Nation and future, for the current generation and future generations. It's exciting.
Yeah, I'm curious to learn more about the Native American ownership aspect of this, but I just want to go back to a term you used, co-producer. I'm not familiar. What does co-producer mean?
It's a coal mine. It's mining.
Oh, coal. Okay, excuse me. Got it. Operating in Colorado, the mine?
In Colorado, we have our headquarters, and the mines are in other areas.
Tell me more about being Native American owned. I see it's one of the largest Native American owned companies, and you talk about that very long horizon in thinking. But what are some other aspects about the ownership that make this business unique?
Yeah, it is unique whenever you have a governmental entity as the owner of the company. It adds a different layer. And this different layer comes with a different perspective on the value creation long term. But at the same time, it's also the alignment with the board of directors and with the governmental entities, with the Navajo Nation. Sometimes adds complexity. So it has different levels of impact when you're owned by the Navajo Nation. But overall, it has a very positive effect on the company.
It seems obvious, but I'm just assuming that one of the main purposes of the company is to financially benefit the Navajo Nation. I mean, obviously, right?
Correct.
Yeah. How interesting.
Yeah. So a significant portion of the coal mine that we have on Navajo Nation, a significant percentage of our employees is Navajo. So it's employment opportunities that people from the Navajo Nation have, and then obviously also via dividends and taxes and royalties that the company produces.
So what has been going on in this part of the energy sector in the past year?
Yeah, a lot has been changing. And the big question is always, and by the way, not only in the US, it's on a global level, and there's a similar discussion in Europe. How do you produce all of that energy that we need? And with artificial intelligence and the data centers and that significant growth, there's also a significant growth of energy that we need. And we all try to figure out on an economic value how to solve this. And it's not going to be one solution. Initially, when I joined the company 3 years ago in that political environment, I think that the idea was, let's create renewable energy as fast as possible, and it can take over very quickly, and we can close down coal mining and coal energy production rather quickly. However, what the reality shows is that switch to renewable energy is not that easy. And there are also the spikes of energy that you have with solar energy or wind energy, and you need to have some kind of base production of energy for all of the energy needs that we have in our businesses and also in our personal lives. So what I've seen happening in the US and also in Europe and in Asia is a discussion about that portfolio. What kind of role plays coal? For how long will it play a significant role? I mean, thinking about the energy needs that we all have, it's probably longer than we expected a few years ago, while at the same time investing in new energy opportunities and renewable energy. So I think the mix will change over the years, but a company like Antec, with a history of in coal mining, will still play an important role for the future.
You know, I don't know anything about the industry, so I apologize in advance if this is a silly question. But you mentioned these discussions going on in the U.S., in Europe, in Asia, about this mix of the portfolio of different energy solutions. How much of that conversation is actually collaborative, you know, across the country or across regions? Or is it more like, of course, each company like yours is having their own discussions about it, but I'm just curious if you all talk kind of at a much broader global scale and try to coordinate this mix of portfolio.
Yeah. It's not really coordination, but there are similar ideas. So when you look at the really big global energy companies, they all invest in an expansion of the product portfolio and energy portfolio. And it's something similar that we are trying to do at that where we have our business development opportunities. There is alignment because there's obviously also the question, how much can the specific government support any ideas of new energy? And there is alignment with Washington, D.C. here in the U.S. and with the Navajo Nation as the 100% owner. So there's some kind of alignment by the governments. Otherwise, obviously, you look what the competitors are doing and the big global energy companies are doing. And the idea of expanding the product portfolio is something that almost everyone is following.
You know, I definitely want to get into some of the AI initiatives that you're involved in. But before we go there, I don't want to leave kind of the M&A part of your background, which is a tremendous amount of experience. And earlier in the conversation, you mentioned that experience you come in the first 30, 60, 90 days, it's really about change and integration. And I was curious at a high level, if you could talk about kind of your M&A playbook.
Yeah.
What are you doing in those first 30 to 90 days?
It's a good topic. It's a difficult topic. And by the way, I also have a website that focuses on mergers and acquisition and artificial intelligence. It's www.bymichaelhofer.com. When I published 3 books about mergers and acquisitions and the different areas of mergers and acquisitions. Maybe a little bit to repeat what I said before, the idea of the value creation and why you do things. That's really what I focus on in the beginning. First of all, to have a very good understanding of the target company or the already acquired company and how they make money and lose money. And how does this align with the value creation and what are the things you wanna change? And then you need to have a very good project plan that aligns short-term with long-term, because some of the changes, especially in product portfolios and some of the growth plans, they take longer. And then very short term, you need to align the financial reporting. You need to have a strong control on cash flow. So as the CFO, the first 3 months are extremely important to get aligned. for me, it is always the big plan after with the first closing after 1 month, that you have the first consolidated numbers that you can show to the board of directors, and that they are believable, right? So there's a lot happening, and I always try to align it with the big picture, because everything becomes easier for yourself and for everyone who's working in the company if you can align your actions with the bigger picture and have that positive effect of that bigger picture, not only for the company, but with the company also on all of the employees.
Michael, you're talking about massive types of change in these companies, and I'm just, getting a feel for the description of these. These sounds like pretty big companies. I have a small company, and I know how hard change is in a small company. How are you doing this? Because getting people to change just minor things is very hard.
Yeah. It depends a little bit with whom you are working together. So there is always a group of people that is very open for change. And obviously you rely initially more on those people. During the due diligence, you already figure out, that group of people is probably more prone and more open to change than other people's. So when you come after the closing into the company, you already know who is open to change, who is okay with change, and there are always people who are not open for change, right? And for them, it's the most difficult ones. My focus is always on that group of people that is open to change, and also to identify change agents, how I call it, or people who have a big impact in the company and who can really communicate the change, not only on manager level, but to all employees. And by the way, this is also something with artificial intelligence that I'm currently focusing on here at the company, really to figure out who are the change agents in the company, who do I need to train on AI, and they continue then with the communication and the training with other people. And similar with M&A, get the people who support change initially in the room. Talk about the value creation, continue talking about it. It's really repetition, repetition, repetition. Sometimes in some of those projects, the first couple of weeks, I'm really jumping 30 minutes from meeting to meeting with different groups, just to repeat the idea of the value creation and of what we want to achieve there. Probably the PhD in communication comes back to me always when I do that. But communicating with the people is extremely important. And for me personally, and I think also most of the employees like it when you're just being honest, right? You need to have a big picture and a big plan for the future, but no fantasies, right? It should be something that is achievable, that is believable. And with everything in life, is one of the leadership lessons that I've learned is be honest about the good and the bad, and people want to hear both.
So let's shift into the AI part of the conversation. I know, just looking at your background, you are personally investing a lot of your time in learning AI, becoming an expert. We all hear it ad nauseum. What is actually going on the ground in business in AI that is useful?
Yeah. Artificial intelligence, I believe, is changing how we work. And it's changing in a similar way like it happened with the internet. And similar to the internet, I believe when you think about the internet, there was an explosion in investments in the dot-com bubble years ago. And obviously everything that had a .com in the business name suddenly got a lot of investments at that time. And not everything survived, right? There was a bubble that burst. And I believe something similar is happening now with AI. Every company currently that has AI in their name or in their vision suddenly has billion-dollar valuations, and not all of them will survive. But like the internet didn't go away. And I also believe that AI will never go away. And what we are trying to do, and what I'm trying to do in my personal life, is focus on the opportunities that artificial intelligence create. However, also understanding where the limitations are. One of the things here at our company at Antec, when I talk about our AI, is again, I talk about the good things and the bad things. And the bad things is there are hallucinations with AI. And if the training data is biased, also the output of AI is biased. And you need to be very careful when you use AI in HR decisions, whether it creates a biased analysis. So not everything is perfect with AI. It doesn't solve everything, but it supercharges people. Short term, what I see in our company and also what I see in the market is that it doesn't replace people, but it increases the capabilities of people. And what I've seen when I did the certificate at MIT, for example, they showed studies that it can upgrade the performance of the low performers that you have in the company. What many of the studies show is that the high performers are anyway high performers. However, if you can upgrade the performance of the low performers with the support of AI, that is a significant improvement of the overall performance of a company. And the opportunities are really still developing. Within a few months, you hear basically almost every few weeks that a new model is coming out that is more powerful, and things that currently not work may work in 6 months. So it's a lot of opportunity. I see a lot of opportunity talking about finance and being a CFO in contract analysis, for example. Uploading a document into an AI for a very rough overview of the contract, digging into some of the legal language with AI is so fast and super helpful. It doesn't solve everything and it's not perfect, the outcome, but it gives you very quickly a very good overview for contract analysis. So that's one of the use cases. In general, as the CFO, you always have accounting questions, you always have tax questions or treasury questions. And in the past, we always immediately reached out to consultants if we didn't have the answer. Now, the very first thing we do is we ask the AI. And usually it comes back with a very good initial analysis. And maybe to support what I said before, my message to all of our employees is you cannot just copy and paste what the output is of an AI. It's still your responsibility as an employee to do a sanity check whether this makes sense or an hallucination is included there or not. It's still in the end a product of a human. But for the external spend on consulting, we could significantly reduce that. We still go in the end to consult and to verify some of our analysis, but you go there with a ready-to-use analysis and just do a sanity check by the consulting firm. So it's another opportunity. And then talking more about the operational business, AI-supported predictive maintenance is in our company a very big topic. And it's just when you have a lot of data, and a lot of our machines produce a lot of data, it's sometimes too much data for a human being really to analyze it on a continuous basis. So having an AI tool jumping on that data and telling us earlier when a machine is going to break down so that we can start with our maintenance earlier and increasing the output significantly is extremely helpful. It's a little bit of a long introduction into the AI topic.
No, you said something that I have not heard before or thought of, and that was in the context of using AI to elevate perhaps the lower performers. Could you share an example of what that means? Is it as simple as having it write their emails for them, the first draft, or what are thoughts around using it to help those lower performers?
So the studies that the best example I think is a study that I read and we discussed at MIT is about a hotline, an IT technology hotline to solve IT issues. And how the company uses AI is by having AI basically as an additional information. As soon as somebody calls with a problem, they start using AI on the topic to find a quicker solution. So one of the outcomes, the positive outcomes, was a quicker solution of all of the IT tickets just by using AI for the analysis of the topic. But also in some of the companies use a more sophisticated solution of the AI to catch up the tone, and even proposes some specific language that the service line agents use in the communication with their clients. So the overall outcome was that the clients were happier, the tickets were solved significantly faster, and again, the analysis on company level in that study showed that the high performers, the AI didn't have that big of an impact on the high performers, but however, it had a significant improvement on the low performers who suddenly went up to the middle, basically. And if you have this with hundreds of people or thousands of people in big companies, there's just a huge impact.
That's interesting because my company is an IT company. We do IT for other businesses, and we are using AI. So I'm going to try to find that paper and learn some more specifics of the case study.
Sure.
Maybe just one last question. I'm just curious. You talked about using AI to do contract review. I do the same thing. What is the approach at your company in terms of, are you using a local model to protect?
Yeah, exactly. So one of the very first question and fears from our legal department was about security of the data. So we decided to use Microsoft Copilot because it's already implemented, and in our company you have some use cases where you use Copilot for the analysis of your inbox, of your schedule. Recently, I wanted to analyze one of our M&A targets, and I asked Copilot to help me with the analysis of that target company, and it immediately looked at everything that is available publicly on the internet, and at the same time all of the emails about the target company, read all of the attachments, PowerPoint presentations, whatever we had internally already about the company, and combined within seconds the external view with the internal view, and gave me a pretty good starting point for a valuation of the company.
Yep, that's pretty impressive stuff.
Yeah.
And then maybe just lastly, the way we came across each other is you recently received a Titan 100 award in Colorado.
Yes, exactly. Like you. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. Same to you. That's good recognition of all of your achievements.
Yeah, and it's good networking. Networking is always important. Doesn't matter which job you have and in which industry you work. And this gives a great opportunity for doing that.
Well, Michael, I really appreciate you sharing your story. I mean, you've had some fascinating career opportunities. So thanks for sharing all of that.
Thanks for inviting me. It was great talking with you.
Thank you so much.
This episode of Leading in the Dark is brought to you by Enzo Technologies. Enzo Technologies helps businesses reduce their cyber risk and operate more reliably through secure, fully managed technology, health facility IT systems, and voice solutions, delivered through a trusted human partnership. Visit enzotechnologies.com to learn more. That's INZO technologies.com.